Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talkin Hearthstone, the podcast where, we talk about Hearthstone. I'm Tito Santana, and this is episode 8. I have been invited into the Blizzard Theory crafting event, which will happen tomorrow as I'm recording this, July 17th. I will be the second half of the afternoon, so it is basically 6 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. Very excited, very unexpected. It's kind of thrown my week into a bit of chaos, which welcome chaos. And we're going to be giving away some bundles. We get some mega bundles to give away. So if you hear this and you are looking to, see some theory crafting and win some bundles, I have a secret for you. I'm not a big streamer, so there'll be less people there, which will mean more opportunity for you to win a bundle. Do with that as you will. I'm not going to have any gameplay today. It's been a really crazy week, and I really just wanted to make sure I stuck to getting something out on Tuesday. And I'm also going to not have any YouTube for this. Well, we're going to have it on YouTube, but it's not going to be video. Like I said, it's just been a little busy. I figured let's just make sure we get something out. Let's talk about the theory crafting and go from there. So what I want to do today is I just want to kind of go through some of the classes. I know we didn't go through every class. I'm learning how to do this solo thing. So next expansion, we will better plan out how we're going to go through each and every class. But for now, I'm going to just kind of do a highlight of each class. And I want to kind of cover some basic archetypes that already exist, some new archetypes that they might be bringing along, and then also kind of look into the tourist concept for each class. And this is not going to be a real theory crafting episode. We're saving that for tomorrow. And this is not going to be, I don't have decks made yet. I have a couple, but they're mostly Paladin. So I just want to kind of get some ideas flowing and talk about them out loud and maybe get them flowing for you. We're not going to have anything concrete coming out of this, but let's just talk about these things in theory. So let's go ahead and start off with Warrior. For Warrior, our existing archetypes are Highlander and Control for the most part. I mean, there's some other things. There's Mining, but those kind of fall into these as well. And we have the new Warrior, we have some cards that are kind of hand buffy. We have some cards that are Menagerie. And then we have Rye Cleaver and Ham the Hungry and whatnot. So this set is kind of maybe not all over the place, but it's definitely strange. I'm looking forward to it. I think that, unfortunately, they're going to get some more control tools. I think we're still going to see Boom Boss, Bran, Reno, with maybe a little bit extra there. But I like some of the cards in this set. I like Draconic Delicacy, which is an 8-mana 6/6. Rush Elusive, can only take 1 damage at a time. This goes really well with the card that deals 5 damage to your minion after you summon it. You can get that down a lot faster. I believe it's Chemical Spill, something along those lines. There's some interesting. You get Char, which is deal 7 damage to a minion. Give a minion in your hand stats equal to the excess damage. That's a 4-mana spell. So that's interesting. Line Cook, which is a tradable taunt. When you draw this, get a copy of it. So there's a lot of different options here. I think we're going to see a Taunt Warrior maybe emerge, especially when you start looking at the Druid cards. Now, keep in mind that Warrior likes to play Ziliax, Kiliax, whatever you want to call them. And then you play Professor Boom there, bring back 2 of them, maybe 4 of them if you've played Brand. Well, you now have access to Hydration Station, which is resurrect your 3 highest taunt minions. So that is kind of nasty. It is going to be a very good control too. You've now giving Warrior access to ramp with spells like New Horizons, 3 mana, increase your maximum mana by 3 and gain an extra mana crystal. It's not going to matter so much if Brand costs 8 if you're playing him on 4. So there's some interesting things here. I'm not sure if the Menagerie type stuff that we have here, like we have draw 3 types of different minion types, destroy an enemy minion with attack less than this, equal to this from the Undercooked Calamari. I think there's a lot of interesting things here. I don't know if we're going to end up seeing a new archetype, or if we're just going to end up seeing the Highlander and Control ones reinforced. So our next class, let's go ahead and talk about Warlock, Taurus into Death Knight. Now, Warlock, my initial look at Warlock is, hey, they just got more pain tools because they have a lot of self-damage here, but it's like different pain. It's more like a mid-range type pain lock. Like you're not necessarily looking to roll the game and get giants down. Well, not that you wouldn't still do that, but this has the things like Party Plan of Bona, which is Battle Cry. If you have taken H damage on your turn, summon Oribus. And Oribus is the minion, I believe is an 8/8 taunt that when it dies, it then gives a minion in your hand summon Oribus. So there's some interesting things there. Health Drink is nice. It's a 3-mana lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion. You get 3 of those for the price of 1. Announce Darkness, I don't see seeing play outside of some super meme stuff. But the Warlock, Taurus into Death Knight, and Death Knight has a lot of Death Rattle synergy as well, and it's very tokeny. You get like summon 5 1/1 ghouls that attack random enemies. You got Eliza Goreblade, which is the legendary there, which for Death Rattle for the rest of the game, your minions have +1 attack. And you also have Corpsicle, which is a 2-mana spell that deals 3 damage. Spend 3 corpses to return this to your hand at the end of your turn. You can pair some of that with Horizon's Edge, which is the 4-mana, 5 durability location. Deal 3 damage randomly split amongst all enemies. After a friendly minion dies, reopen this. So there's a lot of potential for some tokeny kind of burst strategies here. There is no... I don't think there's going to be anything more than different versions of Rainbow. You have one card that is double rune, and that's Slippery Slope. And I think the name of that is appropriate, but it's a 2-mana spell. Freeze a character, draw a card for each frozen character. And I think that they're kind of moving away from the double and triple runes for the most part. I think that it was maybe too restrictive or maybe too hard to balance or whatnot, but I don't know if we'll ever see triple rune cards again. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm kind of okay with it, but I also kind of sad about that. But I think that we're going to see some interesting Warlocks cards here. Now, did I go over this? So Warlock had the most existing archetypes, I think, out of all of everything. It had Sludge. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying these were all playable Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 decks. I'm saying these are things that people were playing at some point or another. Sludge, Pain, Insanity. You had Even Handlock, which is not going to be valid for Theory Crafting tomorrow or for the next set because Genenbaku go bye-bye. And you also have Mining. Now we're seeing kind of like more Pain, but I think more like a mid-rangey Pain. And you have Death Rattle synergy. And like I said, Death Knight has Freeze, it has Death Rattles, and it has the Corpsicle thing. So I think there's going to be a little bit of opportunity for Warlock to have some burst kind of tokeny, kind of aggro-y type thing, almost zoo-ish, but not quite. So we'll see how that goes. Next class we have is Shaman, and Shaman Taurus into Demon Hunter. And this is a pretty interesting development because Shaman was by far, I think, outside of Nature Shaman, which had really no good place in the meta because it didn't matter what you did. They just had to get to turn 6 and they could kill you probably. This set has a bunch of interesting things. I don't know how it's going to work out. You have a 3-mana, 3/8 taunt. This is permanently frozen and Meltamental. It's an interesting card. It's a nice little wall. It's almost like how walls work in Magic the Gathering, but it's strong. If you can summon it back, great. You have Natural Talents, which is get a random Naga and a random spell. They cost 1 less. The spell, the minion that's going to be kind of interesting is Razzle Dazzler. I don't think this is going to be very good, but I could be wrong. This is a 7-mana 4/4. Battle Cry, summon a random 5-cost minion, repeat for each spell school you have cast this game. So there's some powerful things here, but again, I don't know if there's enough here to really create its own archetype or really maybe save Shaman. But again, you have no idea what people are going to come up with. Cabaret Headliner is pretty good. Battlecry, reduce the cost of a spell of each school in your hand by 2. That goes kind of well in the Death Knight, which is going to tourist into Shaman. And that's interesting because you have the Death Knight character is Buttons, 5 mana, 5/5, Shaman Taurus, Battlecry, draw a spell of each spell school. So, I mean, you have the options to possibly get some really cheap spells going there in Death Knight. So it's really kind of interesting how when you have these tourist mechanics and these tourist decks, how you may not even be playing an archetype or enhancing an archetype that you might be playing if you weren't playing the class, if you're just playing the class solo, because it's going to give you different options and different approaches to how to do it. I also wonder if there's ever going to be any decks that play the tourist just for the tourist effect and not to actually get cards from the other set. But the existing Shaman archetypes, you had Highlander, which was good for a while, but then kind of faded. Evolve-ish, you have some ability for that. You also have the other Evolve, which is the Swarm Nostalgia. That can go pretty well with the Demon Hunter set, which is generating a lot of tokens, and so you could possibly get some charge minions, swing face, and then nostalgia them or something. Or I believe we still have the location that buffs things, or that evolves things. And of course there was Nature Shaman, which hopefully never comes back. Now in the new Shaman, you have the Naga, you have the Rainbow, and Demon Hunter is really kind of chargy aggro. So I think there's a lot of potential there. It's going to be fun. Let's go ahead and talk about Rogue. Rogue has existing archetypes of like mining, weapon. It's always kind of a miracle thing about Rogue, depending on what's going on. So yeah, you have options there. The new Rogue is kind of a continuation of the random Rogue stuff, kind of like what the mining's doing right now with the Scorpion and generating more random things. And there's also a lot of pirates, but the pirates also tend to play in the random stuff. So I think there could be a bunch of different ways to approach that style, but I think they can work out differently depending on the cards you pick. And Rogue turns into Warlock, which, like we said, has more pain synergy and death rattles. I really don't see what we're going to be doing with the Warlock cards in Rogue, especially since, and again, like I said, it's way early. There are some amazing deck builders out there. People are going to figure things out. Like maybe Rogue likes Health Drink. Maybe Rogue likes Eat the Imp. But just Curse Sylvaneer might not be bad. Give a minion +3/+3, and at the start of your turn, deal 3 damage to your hero. I mean, that might be okay, but overall, I'm not really feeling the tourist into from Rogue into Warlock. But Rogue cards, like I said, they have a lot of interesting cards. You have Treasure Hunter Eudora, which is go on a side quest. It's Battlecry, you get a side quest. And you play 3 cards from other classes to complete the side quest, and that side quest will give you a Kazakhstan treasure. You get to discover one of those. So those are always pretty good. I mean, you can low roll, but even low rolling, those cards are good. Old Manager is a pretty good card. 2 mana, deal 2 damage, combo, get a coin. You also have Metal Detector, which is not a good card. It's a 3 mana 2/2. After your hero attacks and kills a minion, get a coin. That's very situational, but generating coins are nice. Maybe we're going to see some Wishing Well rogues and whatnot coming up soon. The Taurus is Maestra, Mass Merchant, which is the Warlock Taurus. Battlecry, discover a hero from the past. This is 6 mana, 6/5. So there's potential for a lot of fun there. I think discovering heroes, I think almost any hero could be potentially good. But, and the fact that you discover it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Yes, you might low roll, of course, but I think there's a lot of good potential there. You also have Swarthy Sword Shiner, which is Battlecry, set the attack and durability of your weapon to 3. I actually think that this might be interesting in Paladin, because Paladin, Taurus, and the Rogue, and I understand you have the Pain as Virtue, but when Pain as Virtue is down to 2/1, if you can maybe get a couple extra swings out of it with a little more damage, that might not be so bad. I also like Snatch and Grab, which is destroy 2 random enemy minions, cost 1 less for each card you've played from another class. removal is always good, and that's going to cost you in Rogue often, probably free or close to free. And the location, Knick-Knack Shack, draw a card if you play this on your turn, reopen this. I think that's just going to potentially enable some nice miracle pop-off turns, depending on what you're doing. So I don't feel like Rogue got different. It's still going to be generating random stuff for the most part, but I think the tools they have are interesting, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to play. And people always, as long as Rogue can do Rogue things, people are going to play Rogue. So I don't necessarily know I don't think it matters how good or not it's going to be. People are going to like it. All right, so let's look at Priest torsing into Hunter. Now, Priest is a really weird set for Priest because it is. We've had Shadow in the past, and this isn't really quite Shadow. There's a couple. The spells are Shadow, but everything is sort of self-damaging, pain lock kind of. But for Priest, so that's the main thing. Is you have like Acupuncture is a 1 mana, 1 mana deal 4 damage to both heroes. That's a very aggro card. You have Nightshade Tea, which is deal 3 damage to a minion, deal 2 damage to your hero. So, and that's the drink, so you get 3 of those. Sensory Deprivation, which is summon a copy of an enemy minion. If you have 20 or less health, destroy the original. So this is basically mind control. So there's a lot of good options there. Chillin' Vol'jin is a 3 mana, 3/3 Hunter Tourist. Battlecry, choose 2 minions, swap their stats. Also, like a mini mind control. You play a 1 mana minion, you swap the stats with it, and now you have the big minion. It's also potentially interesting if you get some big beast and hunter, and then you can swap the cost of, or the health and mana to a smaller beast and then attack with that. So I think Chillin' Vol'jin has a lot of versatility. I like the effect better when you get it off Mimron, but I think overall he's still going to be okay. Rest in peace. Summon each player. Each player summons their highest cost minion that died this game. Depending on what you're playing, that could be really good. If you cap out at something like maybe a Beached Whale, that could be very painful for aggro to try to get through a 420 taunt. We also have the mechanic in Priest that is Narian Soothfancy, which Battlecry is 4 mana, 4/4 Battlecry. Get 2 fortunes that are copies of the top card of your deck. So this basically works like the Mirage effect in Highlander Paladin, where you kind of you see the card in the Mirage, and when you play it, it is that card. Now that's going to give you a lot of options to see what card you have on top of your deck, and that's going to go very nicely with your 6 mana, 5/6 Twilight Medium taunt Battlecry. Set the cost of the top card of your deck to 1. So if you have something expensive, that you want to play, you can play this and then play the Soothfancy, because you can play the medium and then play one of your fortunes that you generated with the Soothfancy, because if the top card of your deck costs 1, then the card in your hand that is representing that card will also cost 1. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things there. I don't think it's what Priest players are looking for. In fact, I think a lot of Priest players that are looking for more of the traditional type Priest cards are going to be a little sad, but I think for the Magaces of the world, they're really going to enjoy this. You are also Taurusing into Hunter, which is painful for Priest players. You have the options of a lot of Battlecry synergies with Hunter. Trusty Fishing Rod will be good to get your clerics, and those are some of your most powerful cards. Repeat the last spell you cast at an enemy could be really good with like a Sensory Deprivation. Sasquatch Battlecry, repeat each card you played last turn could be very, very, very strong. So I think there's a lot of synergy there. What those decks look like, it will be very interesting to see. You also have a card called Brain Masseuse, which is a 1 mana 2/4. Whenever this minion takes damage, also deal that damage amount to your hero. 1 mana 2/4 is really nice and strong. Usually they come with a downside, but it is good for, especially if you're playing in something like a control matchup, it's good for just kind of helping you clear and stay in control. So I think Priest got a lot of good cards. They just didn't get a lot of traditionally good cards. Now, old Priest had Highlander, Zarimi, Overheal. Now we're looking at Pain and Fortune. And yes, I think we're going to be able to make some I think I wonder if there's going to be a pain over heal type kind of thing with some push and pull. I don't know. We'll see. So let's move on to Paladin. Paladin's existing archetypes are Flood, Hand Buff, Mining, Highlander. A lot of crossover there between the hand buff and the mining and the flood in some cases. Overall, my favorite has been hand buff. I've been playing that a lot. I think we get a lot of support for that, especially if you just look at the legendary, which is Sandcastle. It's SANC''AZEL, which is a 5-mana 3/8 rush. After this attacks turn into location. And location is give a minion +3 attack, transform back into Sandcastle. And we talked about this last week, is that ability is based on Sandcastle's attack. So you buff this in your hand, then you can rush, clear something, buff up one of your minions on board, or say maybe a South Sea Deckhand, turn back into a minion, clear something else if you have to, and then just go face. South Sea Deckhand goes really nicely with there's a new 3-mana, 2/4 pirate battlecry, give a friendly pirate Wind Fury. So we basically have Shroomskivate back that they had nerfed at the beginning of last expansion. So we're looking forward to that. There's also a lot of synergy with the Taurus, which is Linessa. And she is a 5-mana 2/6 rogue Taurus. Your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. Those go really well, like we talked about, I think last week, with the sunscreens that you can generate off of Life-Saving Aura and the Volleyball, which are spells that are 1 mana, give a minion +1/+2. And so casting those twice are good. They will discount your Sea Shanty, which is a 10-mana spell, summon 3 5/5 pirates. Cost 1 less for each character this game. And do not forget that Linessa is a card that is in core. So you'll be able to get a lot more of those sunscreens in back. And I think this is going to be a fun set for Paladin. I am very excited. We have Mage, Taurus, and the Paladin. So some of these sunblock mechanic could be interesting. But also don't forget that you have Sea Shanty, which would work a little differently in Mage, because while yes, you can reduce it by casting at spells at characters, Mage is possibly looking to play some big spell in this expansion. Like you have King Tide as their legendary battlecry. Both players' spells cost 5 until the end of next turn. That's a nice disruption tool, especially against maybe something like a rogue, but also lets you get down something like Sea Shanty or a Tsunami, which is an 8-mana spell, summon 3/6 water elementals that freeze. They attack random enemies. I think that we're going to see some really good options in Mage. I think it's going to be a little bit more diverse. Tide Pools, discover is a 3-mana location with 3 durability. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less. After you cast the spell, repeat this. I'm not sure about the Taurus, Layla Sand Sculptor, Paladin Taurus. After you cast the spell, summon a random 2-cost minion and give it Divine Shield. I mean, that goes well with, say, the Paladin Drink, which is a Divine Brew. Give a character Divine Shield if it already has had one. Give it +1 attack this turn. So, and there's a lot of potential synergies there as well. Existing Mage archetypes, as you had Rainbow Spell, Small Spell. You had Big Mage, even though that really never kind of made it. And you had Mining, Secret. Now we have big spells, and we have more spells tools just in general. So I think there's a lot of power and potential there. I think Mage is going to be one of the more diverse classes going forward. Let's talk about Hunter. Hunter is a weird set. I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be fun. There's a lot of Battlecry synergy, like we mentioned. You got a lot of parrots, a lot of birds. Catch of the Day is interesting. 1 mana 3/3 Battlecry. Rush Battlecry, summon a 2/1 worm for your opponent. So you could potentially just clear the 2/1 worm, and now you have yourself a 3/2 for 1 mana. Or you can clear that with something else or ignore it. Trusty Fishing Rod will get you the Catch of the Day, which is kind of some interesting flavor. Ranger Gilly is interesting. It's the Warrior Tourist. At the end of your turn, get a 2/3 Crocalus. Death Rattle, give all your minions in your hand +2/+3. The Crocalus sounds weird, but like if you're buffing your whole hand, now you get like a 2 mana 4/6, which is not bad. and you can pair it with cards in Warrior like Cup of Muscle, which is give them in your hand +2/+1, and that's a drink spell. That's a 1 mana drink spell. You have 3 of those. So you have some buffing potential there. If you buff up, say, like a King Plush, then you have a little bit more clearing ability there. So I think Hunter will be a lot of fun. Death Roll is an interesting spell of 5 mana. Destroy an enemy minion. Deal damage equal to its attack, randomly split amongst all enemies. So that seems like it could be fun. You can destroy like their big minions and hopefully clear their board or do something off of that. So I think Hunter is an interesting place. Hunter had Token Hunter, which was the big one. We also had Egg, Breakfast Hunter, whatever you want to call it, which was a lot of fun. And Secrets. New Hunter now has all that Battle Cry, buffish kind of stuff. So I think it's really going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got 3 classes left to get through here. Druid is going to turn us into Mage. Now, existing Druids you had is what they were calling Combo Druid, which is just kind of Ramp Druid with, Marin and Dorian and whatnot. You had Treant Druid, which was decent for a lot of it. You had Drum Druid, which, Treant Druid, but a little different. Highlander Druid, Dragon Druid, which is one of the better ones. You had Boomkin Druid, which never really took off. I think there's a lot of potential for Druid here, which is sad. There's a lot of ramp power here, especially with the New Horizons like we talked about, and then Mista Vista, which is their Taurus, 5 mana, 5/5 Mage Taurus, Battle Cry, and 3 turns replay every single spell you've cast between now and then. So you can set that up to do some really powerful things. Again, you have Resurrect your highest cost taunt minions, which I don't think really goes all that well with the Mage cards, but you have a Ziliax in hand or whatnot, and you have maybe Kiliax, which dies twice. You have potential there. Their legendary, their non-Taurus legendary is a 7 mana 4/5 Cruise Captain Laura, Battlecry, summon 2 random locations. This one is very, I think, not good, because usually the locations you have, you want to synergize with something you're doing in your deck. Now, maybe you're doing this to try to play the giants that you get from the locations. There's a new giant in the neutral set, and that is, let me find it here. That is a 10 mana Seaside Giant, costs 2 less for each time you've used a location this game. So maybe there's some potential there, but I think Druid is going to be just fine ramping. We're going to still see a lot of the same cards we did, but we're going to see a lot of interesting quick ramping, and I think that some of these cards are going to get nerfed relatively early in the expansion. Also, Trail Mix is a spell that exists. That is a 2 mana spell, gain 2 mana crystals next turn only. So that's kind of a way to get yourself to play some of your more expensive things early and set things up for the future. I think that's going to be a really good card. Now you have Sleep Under the Stars, which is kind of like, what was it? The 10 mana spell that would do 10 damage, give you 5 armor. I would do 5 damage, gain 5 armor, summon a 5/5. Ultimate Infestation, I believe it was called. This is kind of a mini version of that. It's but with ramp. It's a 7 mana Sleep Under the Stars. Choose thrice. Draw 2 cards, gain 5 armor, refresh 3 mana crystals. So I think you get to pick which ones you want. That's going to be interesting, especially when you can increase your maximum mana and whatnot. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not particularly excited to be playing against Druid. I know people are very excited for the Druid set. Demon Hunter has existing archetypes of Shopper, Highlander. You have kind of an aggro, low to the ground one. Shopper was mostly what you saw. The new Demon Hunter is kind of like a charge aggro, and you can get into freeze with some of the pain capabilities there. So you can really kind of get some probably aggressive Demon Hunter. You have really some interesting cards that I'm not sure how they're going to fit into things, but I still think they're going to be powerful. Ariana Thrill Seeker is your Taurus. Damage your hero takes on your turn is redirected to a random enemy. That's going to go really well with the priest stuff. Cliff Dive is a 6 mana summon 2 minions from your deck. Give them rush. then they go back into your deck. That seems fairly powerful, especially if you're using them to clear or you have some big things. That might go really well with the all-terrain Voidhound, which is a 7-mana 5/8. When this attacks, give your hero +5 attack this turn. So there's potential there to do a lot of silly things. Dangerous Cliffside is your location. You got a 4-mana, 3 durability location. Summon 2 1/1 pirates with charge. After your hero attacks, reopen this. So that's basically like guaranteed damage on the board. And then you got Patches of the Pilot, which is a 1-mana 1/1 battlecry. Shuffle 6 parachutes into your deck that summon a 1/1 pirate when charged. Let's try that again. Battlecry, shuffle 6 parachutes into your deck that summon a 1/1 pirate with charge when drawn. So it's kind of a take on how pirate patches used to work, but it's different. And this could be good early if you play it on 1 and you get those early. I don't know how well it'll scale into the late game, but we will see. All right, and then finally that brings us to Death Knight. And Death Knight goes into Shaman as a tourist. And like we said, Death Knight has a lot of the Death Rattle synergies and some freeze mechanics. You have like Frostbitten Freebooter is 3-mana 2/2 Death Rattle, freeze 3 random enemies. Any that were already frozen take 5 damage instead. That feels like that could be pretty strong. And you also have some ability for like Brittlebone Buccaneer, which is a 2-mana 1/4 undead pirate. Both of those were undead pirates, by the way. Whenever you play a Death Rattle minion, give it Reborn. Seems really good because then you'll get the double. That might go very well with Eliza Goreblade. You also have Dark Dreadhound Handler, which is 2-mana 2/2 Rush. Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Dreadhound with Reborn. That's a lot of damage packed into a 2/2 minion. So I think we're going to see Death Knight be pretty good. I think we're going to see a lot of this in Rainbow because we are generating corpses and spending corpses. And yeah, I think that's going to be really good for Rainbow. So I know I didn't go through, we went through very quickly and we're kind of over time here. So I hope this was all right and interesting, and I will probably try to figure out a better way to do expansion time, next expansion, start a little earlier and be a little more organized. Again, I was going to try to do something more with this today, but the whole having a theory craft tomorrow is kind of taking over for things. So remember, tomorrow, or you'll probably hear in this today, Tito Santana HS on Twitter, Twitch, specifically Twitch tomorrow night, between 6 and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing the theory crafting. I might not be there right at 6. Depends on how things are going. We have some family things that happen around those times, and it's hard to necessarily shift priorities, but I will be there for most of the night. I will be joined by Doc McButt, my co-host from Bread and Butter. We'll be doing some theory crafting. But anyway, guys, I hope to see you there. It's been a great week. I'm looking forward to the new set. I'll have a short episode on Tuesday of next week. I probably won't have any gameplay either, but I'll try to get some more because that's patch day, right? That's release day. So I will try to get more an episode or 2 out next week and talking about the new things and getting everybody excited and maybe finding some new things for you all to play. But anyway, guys and gals, I think I'm done talking. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon.